I just talked to James Altucher, and he is a genius. In his first year in business, he made $15 million, and then he lost it all. He had like $143 left. Then he made millions again, lost it all again, and then he made millions again. And he is a master of reinventing yourself and what he calls skipping the line, which means seeing what other people don't see and avoiding common pitfalls and obstacles so you can get there faster. And then he went on to write 18 books and he became a comedian because he wanted to, because why not? And he started a Kickstarter campaign to buy Greenland in 2020 because he thought it'd be fun. And if you're currently in a phase where you're going through a tough time, or you're starting a new chapter, or you're wanting to reinvent yourself, this is the first thing I asked him about. What would you tell someone that is currently in a phase of choosing their next adventure?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that's very important is to experiment. And there's so many things we don't know about life, and so many things we don't know about ourselves. But so view yourself and your daily life as a laboratory. And like, what experiment can you do today? And the goal of this, again, is a little bit as just practice and exercise. But the goal a little bit is to learn a little bit more about what you're capable of, you know, how big your network is, or getting used to being in uncomfortable situations. So one great example is, and this was given to me by Noah Kagan, who's a successful entrepreneur in Austin. He told me this like 10 years ago. He said, James, I want you right now to go to a Starbucks, order a cup of coffee, and then ask for 10% off. And so I did it, and it was really, really hard. Like, I really did not, want to ask for 10% off. And the goal is too, you ask for 10% off, and they'll always say, well, why? And you just say, no reason. I just would like 10% off. And
Yeah.
and it was really hard. But now I've done it so many times that now it's easy. So some things that were once hard become easy. So like, for instance, one time I was at uh, a Home Depot, and I bought it was like $90 worth of stuff, and I got like $9 off because I asked for a 10% discount. Because the woman asked me, well, I guess you get a discount if you're a senior citizen. Are you a senior citizen? And I'm like, I don't know. And so she tried to find a manager. There was no manager available. And I'm not a senior citizen, by the way, but there's no manager available. She said, okay, yeah, you could have a 10% discount. And so you never know what happens. Also, really good on during a time when I was single, really good on dates. Like, you suggest this idea, and then your date is you're going from bodega to bodega asking for discounts on cups of coffee, and it's like an experience that you experience together. And usually, by the way, the girl gets a 10% discount much more than the man does, so there's a feeling of success that she'll have as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've played around with this too in the past where I'm just like, can I get a discount? And they're like, oh, why? It's like, do you have something? And so just for fun, because it's a bit of small talk with the waiter, and sometimes you could say, yeah, it's my birthday this year. So, it's
Yeah,
not
that's
wrong.
funny. Yeah.
So yeah, I think people would be surprised what becomes available with
And
things like that.
and then just thinking of other types of experiments too. Like when I was trying to get better at stand-up comedy, this is many years ago, this is like 2016 or 2015. I went into a Subway, and I figured, because it's very hard in New York City to get stage time to do stand-up comedy. I mean, you're competing against the best comedians on the planet. And so I went into to a Subway, and I had someone come with me with a video camera, and I was so scared of doing it. I said to my friend, just turn the camera off. It's not going to happen. We'll just ride the Subway for a little bit. And then I then in a few minutes I said, oh, you know what? Turn it on. Let's just see what happens. So she turned the camera on, and I just started doing stand up. And you would never find a more unfriendly crowd than New York City rush hour Subway crowd. But every stop I went to a different car. I got out of the car and got into a different car, and I did stand up for like 2 hours on this Subway. And it was definitely, I feel now I can do it because I did it a couple times. And it's not like I got good at doing stand up in a comedy, but in a Subway car, but it became, something. I went from being uncomfortable to slightly more comfortable.
Yeah.
And you never know what happens with an experiment. I started thinking then, well, what
And
if,
also, the next thing could have been you ask for money on the stand up show. Hey, who, and then who
yeah,
knows? Maybe they ask for a 10% discount.
that's true. You know what? I should have, I should have asked for money. But what I did think of though was, what's the format of a late night talk show? Well, usually, you know, Jimmy Fallon or whatever will do 5 minutes of stand up and then they'll have a guest and then a musical guest. So that's like a typical format of a late night talk show. So I figured, maybe I could do a late night talk show on a subway. So I just did the stand up and then I brought on a friend of mine who was a famous author and I interviewed him on the subway and we interacted with the other subway the other people on the subway, so that was fun. And then I found, there was like a homeless guy in the subway station playing drums on the garbage cans, so that was my musical guest. And I edited it all together as a video, and I actually sent it to an agent at William Morris. And he said, "There's no way I can sell this." And I'm like, "Fine." But what if he had said, "Oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever?" Then that would have turned into a show. So you never know when these experiments combined with thinking of ideas of what to do could turn into something. And if you do experiments every day, you suddenly have this wealth. Worst case is every experiment is a story. Like I just told you this story. But best case is, a medium case is you get comfortable doing uncomfortable things. And best case is, oh my gosh, that's how it started. That famous late night subway talk show. And, you never know.
Yeah, I think oftentimes that's how some of the greatest companies get launched and the greatest careers get launched, where somebody just tried something, just like, oh, I thought I'd try it out. I thought I'd upload it to YouTube. I thought it'd be cool to
Yeah.
build something like this. And then all of a sudden there's a demand for it and people are like, wow, this is great. And so, yeah, I guess you can't really predict what's going to be massively successful.
And this goes along too with the fact that, so I wrote a book once called Choose Yourself. And this is a very important philosophy for me. Let's say like that William Morris agent rejected my show idea and I didn't pursue it any further. It wasn't like I was that interested in doing it, but I just wanted to see. But what if I was interested in doing it? So at one point, younger me might have been really disappointed. Like, oh my gosh, I worked so hard on this and this is a great idea. Why doesn't this agent see it? I was waiting. It would have been like I was waiting for him or somebody or anybody to choose me for success. But what I realized is that I could just choose myself for success. Like you said about YouTube, I could have just started doing that and put it on YouTube every day. And eventually, if it was good, it would have worked out. And if it wasn't good, well, maybe it would have evolved into something else, or I would have gotten more experience making YouTube videos. Who knows? So, whether it's a book, a TV show, a business, you can't wait for the powers that be to choose you. So I've written 25 books, and about half of them I've published with the usual crew, HarperCollins or Simon and Schuster or whatever. But then about half of them I just self-published, and it's such a better experience actually self-publishing. And I didn't have to wait for anybody to choose me. As soon as I was done with the book and edited it and designed it and so on, I would upload it to Amazon. It's paperback, hardcover, audiobook, and Kindle, and I would choose myself to, and the book. So I wrote the book Choose Yourself, which is by far my most successful book, sold over 1 million copies. I self-published that on Amazon. And again,
Yeah.
it's hardcover, paperback, Kindle, and audiobook. And I hired a professional designer. I hired a professional marketing person to help me market it. And it was as if a publisher had did it, but I did it. I chose myself to do it.
Would be funny if the Choose Yourself book never saw the light of day because you couldn't get a publisher. That
Right.
would be the most ironic thing.
Right. That would have. And then,
Yeah, yeah.
by the way, the fact that I trashed publishers so much in that book actually is that every publisher wanted to then publish my next book to prove that they were the ones who were cool enough that the guy who hates publishers was willing to work with me. And I will tell you, the advance for Skip the Line, which was kind of like my next regular published book after Choose Yourself, was so much higher than any other advance I gotten for any other book.
Incredible. Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of the internet, right? And the technological advancements that we have. I mean, it started with YouTube, and now with AI, what becomes possible, the gatekeepers are becoming less and less.
It's true, but when I look through history, there were always ways to choose yourself. Yes, the internet has made it 1,000 times easier for our generations, but there were guys who sold millions and millions of copies of books that self-published. You know, I'm trying to think of some good examples, like Wayne Dyer, the self-help guy. He originally he wrote his book. He quit his job as a professor. He was a tenured professor at St. John's University in Queens, and he loaded up his car with the trunk of his car with his books, and he just went from bookstore to bookstore handing out his books, and it's eventually sold 100 million copies of his books. So
Yeah, or Jesus with the Bible, right?
there
He
you go.
read the he wrote the Bible.
He
Is
didn't
that how,
actually write it, but yes, that
something
was
like that? I just want to make an intelligent point. I want to, yeah,
HarperCollins rejected it, and then it became big despite that.
yes, the number one best-selling book. So
Oh,
what are
and
some
by
of
the
the
way, the number one best-selling book actually, 50 Shades of Grey, was originally self-published. And then Simon and Schuster saw how successful it was getting and offered her a deal to publish it. So I did an experiment. I took 50 Shades of Grey and I rewrote it. But when I say I rewrote it, I used a thesaurus. I basically hired somebody on like freelance.org, and I hired somebody to take every single word and replace it with a synonym. And so it's this exact same number of words as 50 Shades of Grey, and it's the exact same story, except every word's a synonym. So instead of saying, she studied for her test, it might be like, Jane consumed the materials for her exam or something like that. Uh, and I published it on Amazon. It
wow,
sold,
I could see that going really sideways, where it picks the. It's just like instead of a billionaire, it's a evil dictator, and
yeah, no, but I think it was like, okay, I can't even remember the title of the book now. I always have to like look this up. But anyway, it's out there on Amazon somehow, and it got like 3 reviews, but nobody liked it.
oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. I'm so happy you brought up the stand up story. I was hoping you would. If not, I was going to ask you about it because it's I
Oh yeah.
do stand up, and like the thought of going and doing 2 hours of like crowd work and one liners on a subway is insane.
Sweating
like
right now.
I'm that's the most it's the most petrifying possible way to do comedy. So just like the balls on that is insane. And it's actually through stand up that even this episode was able to happen. I did stand up in Chicago for a while, met a guy
Oh,
named
I know
Brendan
Brendan
Lemon,
Lemon. Yeah.
and I saw exactly, yeah, yeah. So I saw him posting that his book came out and you were the foreword, and I was like, oh, I've read that guy's book. That's cool. And he's like, okay, here's his email address. Don't tell him I told you. I'm
No,
like, okay, well,
yeah, the Power Bible. He and Bill Batiste wrote a very great book about, and a lot of it was inspired from stand-up comedy, but it's about an idea of persuasion called frame control. And I even talk about this in the book Skip the Line. And the idea is either you control the frame or the people you're talking to control the frame. Now, in a podcast, it's a little different. You kind of trade the frame back and forth. But like if you're in a relationship or if you're doing stand-up comedy, uh, either you control the frame and it works, or the audience controls the frame and you're dead. You are just dead on the stage if they control the frame. Or if you're a lawyer, either you control the frame or the jury or the other lawyer controls the frame and you lose the case. Like it's such an important concept. And so how you keep control of the frame in different situations is what this book's about.
One of the things you mentioned earlier with the big ups and downs that you went through is there are some things that you had to unlearn.
Yeah.
It was statistically relevant to see, okay, maybe there's something I'm doing wrong here. And so what are some of the things that you had to unlearn?
I had to unlearn that I was smart. So I thought I was smart because ever since I was a kid, I had glasses, I had crazy hair, I had, I just looked like the smart kid. And then I always was smart. And then I sold a business. So, I must be a super genius. And then then it took me a long time. I realized I was the biggest idiot on the planet. And I remember even thinking, one time so I had a venture capital firm for a while. One time I was in a meeting with one of my partners who was his background was, he was an investment banker. And he would ask questions like, talk to me, like, explain this to me like I'm a 5-year-old. Like he would say to the entrepreneurs pitching us. And I would think to myself in the meeting, like, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. Like, he's so stupid. And and then I realized he was the smart one. Like now I ask the questions like him. And in every situation now, I remind myself I'm probably the stupidest person here. And then you also get into the habit of finding people who are smarter than you to associate with and to like when let's say I'm investing in a company, I always look who else is invested in this company. There's got to be someone smarter than me in this company or I'm not going to do it. A good example is, let's say, I'm just going to make this up. Let's say Warren Buffett invested in IBM at 100 and and now IBM's at 80. It's not like I'm going to run into Warren Buffett at a party and say, "Oh, Warren, I can't believe how stupid you are. You invested in IBM. Even I know not to invest in I." No, like Warren Buffett's the greatest investor in the world. So if he invested at 100, I'm going to invest at 80 because he's smarter than me. And this has got to be, if it was a good investment at 100, it's certainly a good investment at 80. And this has kind of been my approach to investing since 2006, 2007, and it's a miracle, like how well just changing this way of thinking about things, how much money you can make from investing that way. Or you look at a lot of things differently if you view yourself, if you because it's not even like being insincere. It's not like, oh, I'm being like overly modest or humble. Like in most areas of life, I really am stupid, but it's so easy. There's something called Dunning-Kruger effect where you think you're smarter than you are. Like a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. And so it's very valuable to remind yourself constantly just about that you're not as smart as you think you are. And it's hard to realize this because you think you're smart in a lot of areas, but to realize, oh, in almost every area of life, I'm not the smart one. That's very valuable.
Yeah, and I think it can go the other way too, right? Where people underestimate themselves, or I should say specifically overestimate other people, where they think, oh, like everyone's so much smarter than me, I don't know anything. But
Yeah.
I guess you want the most accurate view of reality at all times, which is, I don't know shit, and other people also don't really know shit, but some know a little bit. And so, there's that flip side too, where some people, they speak with a lot of confidence and you take their advice and you're like, wait, they also don't know anything. And the world is built by people that are no smarter than you.
Yeah, no, it's true. And the other thing is and this is something I also have to tell myself, I am a poor judge of character. Like most people think that they're a great, I'm sure you've heard this a million times. Everyone says, oh, I'm a really good judge of character and this person's good and this person's not good. I realize I'm not a good judge of character, and probably most people aren't good judges of character. But I see this all the time in my own life where I think someone was a good person or good to be around, and then I was just wrong. Or sometimes the reverse. Sometimes I judge someone like, oh, this person's no good, and then I realize, oh no, they're actually a very good person, very smart person, and so on. So I have to really, and also I know one thing. I know I'm easily convinced. So I'm the type of person, I will believe the last person who I spoke to. So if I'm trying to decide something and I ask two people, whoever is the second person, that's the side I will take because I'm just easily convinced. And in part because, when you're an entrepreneur for 30 years or however long, you become a very good salesperson, and good salespeople are the easiest to sell. Good salespeople are the easiest to persuade. So one time I was going into a meeting to maybe invest in this biotech company. And I knew in advance, I did some due diligence. I knew in advance I did not want to do this deal. Like I just felt that deep down, this was probably not going to be a good deal. So I took someone with me and I said, no matter what I say after this meeting, you've got to tell me you can't invest. And it almost sounds stupid. Like, why couldn't I just remember myself? But I come out of this meeting and I'm like, Doug, I think this was actually a pretty good company. I think I was wrong. And then I was being persuasive. Like I was telling him that, no, this is good. And he's like, James, I have to just keep telling you, you said for this, and this reason, it's not good. And I'm like, oh, you know what? You're right. I'm not going to do it. Finally, he convinced me because I was being persuasive on him that we should invest. And finally he convinced me, no, remember what you said.
That's so good to know your own weaknesses and your own biases. And I wonder which mine are. I think the judge of character, I can resonate with that because I also believe, I think I can tell pretty well. But then I see everybody else say the same thing, and I'm like, no, you can't. But then why? Like, why wouldn't that apply to me as well? So
yeah, and look, knowing that I'm not a good judge of character has saved me from a lot of bad situations. But also, I still fall into it. Like I think, oh, this group of people's good. I'm going to partner with them, and then you realize, nah, they were just using you or this or that. And it's always difficult. So you have to forgive yourself too when you make mistakes. Again, it's very important to go forward. Like again, I had this negative business situation recently where, my wife was saying, maybe you should sue them, blah, blah, they didn't give you this or that. And I'm like, you know what? I have a lot of good things going on. I'm just going to move forward in every other area and make those areas better. And rather than try to squeeze something out of a past situation that was my fault anyway for getting involved with not so good people.
Yeah. So whenever you're starting something new, I always get humbled because initially I think, oh, this is way easier than I think. And then once you start something new, whether it's writing a book or starting a podcast or this new business, it's always the same thing for me. I realize, oh, this is way harder than I thought. But I'm glad I was delusional in the beginning.
That's a good point. Is that there is a little bit of delusion that comes with anything you start that you try to be successful at. So like I started writing every day in the 90s, 3,000 words a day. And I wrote novel after novel after novel, and all of them were crap. Like they were the worst written things ever. But I was delusional enough to think, this is great. Someone's going to publish this, I'll just keep going and something will get published. And fortunately I did that because that allowed me to put in kind of the 10,000 hours of writing so that I could be good. If I wasn't delusional, I would have just given up right away.
Yeah. And so you talk about this idea of skipping the line. And I guess how would you describe what it means to skip the line and how did you apply that?
Yeah. So, skipping the line a little bit has to do with this notion of experiment. So basically we all want to get better at the things we love doing, but there's this idea, and I just mentioned it, it's called the 10,000 hour rule. It's not specifically 10,000 hours, but the idea is if you put in, there's a certain number of hours you put in, and then you will master something you love doing. So if you play golf for 10,000 hours, you might be a great golf player. If you play the piano for 10,000 hours, and it's not just playing the piano, but with something called deliberate practice. Like you study with a coach, the coach tells you where you went wrong, and you repeat, and that's deliberate practice. So if you have 10,000 hours of deliberate practice of something that you love doing, you'll get great at it. But I thought, like, I don't have 10,000 hours left anymore. I mean, I do, but I like to get good at lots of things. And, I'm in my 50s, so I want to, 10,000 hours is, so let's say 5 to 10 years or more. So that's too much. But I like to think that if you do experiments, like the experiment I did with stand-up comedy, that allowed me to skip a line very quickly. Like I got instead of waiting years to get on stage for 2 hours worth of time, because you go on stage when you're just starting out, you might go on stage once a month for 5 minutes. So instead I got an audience, a forced stage for 2 straight hours, and I could do it anytime I want. Go on the subway anytime I want. So that was a way to skip the line. Going directly to the CEO and then kind of, of HBO and saying, hey, I want to do this 3 a.m. idea. That was a way of skipping the line. Instead of waiting for, some middle management person to bless me and choose me, oh yes, you can do this. I just went straight to somebody who really didn't care but had the authority to say yes. And that was a way of skipping the line. Self-publishing a book is a way of skipping the line. I don't have to wait for an agent and a publisher and a marketing team and so on to like me. I can just do it. And so a lot of times people don't do things because they think they have all these gates that they have to go past. And it's just not true. There are many types of ways to skip the line, but there's always a way. Although, there's something I've recently tried to get better at, and I thought I would use the ideas and skip the line to get better at it, and it just didn't work. And it was heartbreaking a little bit, or I'm still in the process of it. But then,
what was it?
So it might be a little geeky, but when I was young, I was a strong chess master. Like I was, when I was in high school, I was New Jersey's junior champion, and And then as soon as I hit the master level, I stopped because I was going to start businesses. I was, going to get married, the whole thing. So I stopped playing, and I stopped for 27 years. And recently I figured, okay, I just wrote this book, Skip the Line. I'm going to show that I can get, at 30 years later, almost 30 years later, I'm going to show that I can get back into it and be even stronger than I was before. And as hard as I try, I cannot mimic the success. I am the Georgia senior champion for over 50, but I can't seem to get as good as I once was. Like the brain changes as you get older. It gets good at some things. It's like it gets good at more philosophical things. So like for instance, the peak age for a historian, the peak age for a mathematician or a chess player is probably in your mid 20s, like 25 years old. The peak age for a historian is 69 years old. So some things you get better at, like kind of, pattern recognition, like, oh, this event in World War II is like this event in World War I, so you could be a historian. But just memory and raw calculation, like the raw processing speed of your brain slows down. And but the flip side is other things happen when you're older. And so I'm trying to kind of wrap my head around this, which is that, okay, maybe I'm not like this rising chess master at this older age, but because I've had success along the way and done other things, and because I'm good now at reaching out to people, and I'm good at writing and commentating, and I've been invited to commentate world championship games on TV. I've flown all over. I've had dinner with Magnus Carlsen a couple of times as the best player in the world. I've had so many amazing experiences now because of who I am, and I've brought that back into the chess world. So it's a different experience, and it's just as valuable as when I was younger. Unfortunately, I don't win as many games as when I was younger.
How do you currently spot new opportunities and then decide what you want to get into next?
I think a lot of it has to go with excitement. Like again, you get passionate about different things, and you never know what's going to light your passion. Like you can't really predict it. But for instance, so I don't know if you follow the stock markets at all, but recently in the past few months, there's been this phenomenon of companies, like these really awful tiny companies, microcap companies with like a $2 million market cap, a $3 million market cap, and suddenly they'll announce they've raised $100 million to buy Bitcoin or to buy Ethereum or to buy Solana. So at first I was like, okay, that's interesting. But then the more I was looking into it, I was getting excited because it seemed like this whole merger of the crypto and equity markets was happening all of a sudden, and it's still happening. And so there was a crypto token I liked called Tau. It's like the premier crypto token that supports decentralized AI. So I could go into the whole technical jargon of it, but suffice to say, this crypto token Tau was interesting. And I also noticed it's very hard to raise. It's still very hard to raise $100 million, $200 million, and it's not necessarily the fastest route to success. So I found a public company that already had cash in it. It had $15 million in cash, not $100 million, but $15 million, and they were winding down their old business because they knew it was a failure. And so I approached them and I said, how about we work together, and we'll buy this crypto token Tau. Nobody's done this strategy yet. They've been buying Bitcoin and Solana, but no one's done Tau, this AI token. And they said yes, and we did it. And so now we completely wound down the business. We changed the name of the company, changed the ticker symbol. We're buying a whole bunch of this token Tau, and the stock's up like 300 or 400% since we started doing this. So, that was like an opportunity, which, I kind of got excited about. And then I had an idea. And among my list of 10 ideas, that was an idea one day. And I approached, I had 10 people. Another list was 10 people I could approach, or 10 of these public companies I could approach. And this was one of them. And boom, not only did this opportunity work, and I have, they gave me a whole bunch of shares of it. I have like, a big chunk of the company, but, the other companies I approached now all want my advice on how to do this. And I'm being asked to speak at conferences, and it's completely expanded my network. And they all came out of doing these 10 ideas a day and being in an uncomfortable situation and getting comfortable with it.
You skipped the line.
Yeah, I completely skipped the line. Like now I'm basically helping run a public company that I had nothing to do with just 2 months ago.
That's fun. One of the things you got really excited about was buying Greenland.
Oh yeah.
Tell that story.
That was an experiment also. So I don't know if you remember. I mean, obviously in this administration, Trump has been very aggressively saying, I want to buy Greenland. But in 2019, I think it was 2019, he just tweeted out, you know, we would like to buy Greenland. I want to buy Greenland. And the Prime Minister of Denmark responded and said it's not for sale. And I'm like, what the hell did I just see? Like, did the President of the United States just offer to buy an entire country on Twitter? And what does Denmark have to do with Greenland? Like, I didn't know Denmark had anything to do with Greenland. It's this tiny little country in Europe that I've never thought of before. And so I did a little research, and okay, Denmark owns Greenland apparently. And then why would anybody want Greenland? Well, apparently it's the number 2 place in the world. Let's call it a country for a second. It's the number 2 country in the world with rare earth minerals, which are critical for the electric grid, semiconductors, and so on. The number 1 country is China, and Trump obviously didn't want to be reliant on China for the most. I mean, the U.S. would basically shut down if we didn't have rare earth minerals. So of course, and then I looked a little deeper. Well, what does Greenland do with their rare earth minerals? There's a company, Greenland Natural Resources, which guess what, is owned by China. And so they're the ones digging all the rare earth minerals. So Trump obviously just wanted to protect, you know, national interests, and Denmark is being paid off by China. That's why China owns basically the rare earth minerals in Greenland. So this is still an ongoing issue. But I figured, okay, well, maybe nobody should own Greenland. Maybe I should own it, or a group of people should own it. And so I had never used Kickstarter before, or any of these crowdfunding sites. So I figured, okay, this is a good way to learn Kickstarter. And also, this was an experiment in writing, because what I did was I started a Kickstarter, and Kickstarter said no, but I used like a GoFundMe or something like that. And I have to write up what are all the rewards. So if somebody donates $10, then they become an Earl. $100, you become a Duke. $1,000, you get a holiday named after you. $10,000, you get like 1,000,000 acres, because Greenland's really big. And then I wrote all the reasons. I wrote it as if it was an article, why someone should buy Greenland, but I did it in this alternative format, which is a Kickstarter format. And so for me, it was like an interesting exercise in writing as well. And I launched it. It started raising thousands of dollars, and I forget. No, I think it was GoFundMe. They shut me down because they said, "Look, we know you're making a joke. We don't want to deal with the credit card rebates later on, so we have to shut it down." But that was an experiment where I learned about Greenland. I learned about Kickstarter. I learned about crowdfunding. It was an experiment in writing for me, and
you learned about the GoFundMe terms and services too.
Exactly. And then I was able to write an article about it, and so I got an article out of it. So it was a story as well. And
you know, I was worried, because usually on the show we have a segment called $1 Trillion Business Ideas, where we pitch the guest on give us a little bit of money, and then you get 1% of $1 trillion when we end up making it. But you filled that segment for us. I didn't have anything. I didn't do 10 ideas for $1 trillion.
That would have been $1 trillion business opportunity right there, is owning Greenland. And
right, what if it actually works out? What if it actually worked out? And because was it a joke, kind of, but you never know.
I always think that, like, what if somehow it catapulted me to some amazing thing? And that could always happen with these experiments. You just never know. And it has happened to me a couple of times, with an experiment turns into something much bigger than you would have thought.
Are you in touch with the latest updates on that? Is the U.S. going to buy Greenland? Do you think it's possible?
He started out the gates pretty strong in this administration with wanting to buy Greenland. And I don't know what's happened to that lately. I think it's a good idea for any country to own Greenland, and then people will start. Everybody's like crazy with politics. Like, you either 100% one way or 100% the other way, and I never care about that. Like, I don't care. But you see people who don't know anything say, well, no, they have the right to their own self-government. And first off, they don't govern themselves. Denmark does. Second, Greenland, if it was its own country, it has the highest suicide rate and the highest alcoholism rate of any country in the world. So if somebody were to just buy Greenland and just pay them, hey, you'll get a dividend from the rare earth minerals we mine, then maybe all the suicides would go away. Who knows?
Yeah. I was thinking about that initially with the Kickstarter campaign. How many thousands of dollars would somebody have to donate to get one Greenlander? Because the Greenlanders that are, how many are there?
There's only like 50,000.
50,000. They're included in the sale, right? If you buy the country, you own
That's
the people
true.
too.
That's
So
true.
you get one
Slavery is
Greenlander.
illegal, but yes, that's true. You could maybe, if they want to participate in you make some crypto token where it's linked to you tokenize the rare earths underneath Greenland, and that's part of the pitch to the Greenlanders to go along with this.
Yeah, and if you tokenize the people, then I just own the
You're
NFT.
really pushing the slavery thing
It's
here.
not slavery if it's an NFT. Listen. This is.
That's true.
I think this may have been the missing piece.
It could be. Maybe that's what. Maybe instead of just being alcoholics, maybe they would have liked to have. Hey, we just put us down in the rare earth mineral mines. We'll do the work. So
Yes.
you never know.
John, did you have anything else that you wanted to get into? I know you're flicking through the book right now as well.
Yeah, I had two little ideas. So one was, or not two little ideas, two questions to follow up on. One was, you said the happiest time in your life was when you were doing that 3 a.m. show. And I was wondering, A, why? And then B, if there were any like amazing lessons or weird things or just a funny thing that happened that you saw at 3 a.m. in New York that's like paid off dividends. Like, man, the 10 minutes with this weird person just informed my worldview.
Yeah, I mean, both of those things in the sense that it was happy because I was doing something that it was the first time in my life I was doing something for a living that I had created myself. And so like I had created this job I went from being like this, programmer working on whatever it was, I can't even remember what I was working on, to now every Wednesday night I would go out with a camera crew and this was very uncomfortable. You imagine going up to people at 3 a.m. and saying, hey, can I talk to you for a second? Like, what are you doing outside at 3 a.m? And I did it for about 2.5, almost 3 years. And it was so much fun. Like my whole week was revolved around, planning, where I was going to go and who I was going to talk to. And then, yeah, you would see things, during the day, you see, particularly in New York City, during the day, you see everybody who's in a suit, who's going to work, who's got a 9 to 5 job, and then they go out to dinner with their friends afterwards. But at 3 a.m, it's the opposite. It's not people who don't have jobs, people who they haven't grown up in the same way you have, and they have maybe, particularly on a Wednesday night. It's not a Saturday night where everyone's partying. It's a Wednesday night. So it's like people who have some problems, and that's why they're out at 3 a.m. And then there's also all sorts of things. There's also crimes are going on. Like that's when most crimes happen, is at 3 a.m. And so you see this mixture, this different type of culture, and you realize, oh, I had always maybe had a prior judgment, but these people are just trying to survive like I am, and maybe in a completely different way. It's a completely flip side of the culture that we're used to. There's a 3 a.m. culture, and that had an impact on me, and it was interesting. But also, it was a story for me. Like I was that was my thing, as I was this 3 a.m. guy. So, but then when it became not as fun is when the HBO's TV department reached out to me and said, "Hey, do you want to make this as a TV show?" Now suddenly I was worried and I was nervous, and like, were they going to choose me, and how was I going to get this right, and who was I going to involve? And I lost friends, and it was no longer as fun after that.
Interesting. And I guess one other thing. So you own, it wasn't The Stand, it
Yeah.
was Stand Up New York
Yeah.
that you owned, right?
The guys at
Yeah.
The Stand hate me. So that is a good comedy club,
okay.
The Stand. I will say that's probably the second best comedy club in the city, but that guy hates me.
Why?
Well,
Why?
a couple of reasons. One is I wrote this article that went viral. It was I would argue this was the last truly viral article, and it was called
Oh, Seinfeld had
yes,
some
yes. It
thoughts
was
on that one, right?
it was called New York
Yeah.
City is dead forever. Here's why. And I wrote it in August of 2020. And when I say it's viral, I still get at least once every couple of days hate mail from that article. And it's 5 years later. Like that's how crazy it is. And then like Seinfeld wrote a full page op-ed in the New York Times just trashing me. He barely addressed the article. He was just trashing me in
What's the deal with James Altucher?
and
What were the points you made, and how did he trash you? What did he say?
well, the point I made was that you can't just shut down like regardless of how you feel about COVID or whatever, you have to realize, and this was my warning, was that you can't just shut down an economy for 4 months, 5 months, a year, and expect it to bounce back. And like New York City is $100 billion a year to run that city. And what I noticed was everybody was leaving the city, particularly the tax base. The top 1% of people were leaving, and people were responding to me like good riddance to them. But you need $100 billion a year of revenue to run that city. And then we were already starting to see crimes were getting worse, garbage in this, rats were getting worse, the subway was getting worse, like everything was just getting worse. Businesses, something like 30% of small businesses closed down during that time, like forever. And in New York City, and New York City was more affected than any other city in the U.S. And so I wrote this article not as a criticism, but as someone who lived there my whole life. I didn't want New York City to be dead, so I wrote it as kind of a wake up call. It sounds like I was making a prediction, but it was more like a wake up call. Please do something about this. And we'll see. I mean, the jury is still out there. New York City's come back in some ways, and in some ways it's worse still. But everybody, of course, thought I was being like, oh, he's trashing New York City. So Seinfeld said, oh, Seinfeld made some weird points. Like one of the points I made was that people are not going to come back to work the same way. They're working from home now, so you don't have to be in New York City to work. So the good thing for the country is talent will disperse into every other city. Not that the other cities don't have talent, but New York City is the premier city in the country. And Jerry Seinfeld said, "Oh no, this guy doesn't know anything. People want to go to work." And I'm like, "No, I don't think they do." Like most people I know don't want to go work in a cubicle and be on the subway at 6 a.m, in the snow and everything. Like he didn't, and I'm like, he's writing this op-ed from his house in Long Island where he's got 100 Porsches in the garage. Like, what does he know about what everybody wants? He really doesn't. But it was disappointing to me. Like he was like a hero of mine. I mean, he would perform at my comedy club that I owned because he lived just 2 blocks away from the comedy club, and he lived on 81st, and he still does. And like my comedy club was on 78th, and so so it's very. I got a little depressed, and I shouldn't have. But the problem was too, friends of mine unfriended me. People who were close to me wrote articles trashing me, because they wanted to kind of ride on those coattails. But somebody took Seinfeld's article and blew it up, like, so it was this entire scaffolding. It took up the whole side of a building with Seinfeld's article trashing me. So just the whole city hated me.
Wait,
literally millions of people.
or metaphorically, somebody
No,
did this?
no. No. Someone really did blow it up, and it became the article became the scaffolding of this building.
Really? What?
Yeah.
Oh, in New York City.
In New York City.
What?
Oh my God, that's so great.
People outside the city though loved it. So, but unfortunately, it was the type of people that New York City people hate. So Rush Limbaugh read it word for word on his show. Glenn Beck had me on his show to talk about it. Joe Rogan read it literally word for word on his show. And these are all the people that New York is extremely one way, and the New Yorkers hated it. So just in every way, I became like trashed by people I knew and respected and even loved. And I lost so many friends. Friends of mine would lose friends if they defended me. So it was, and people would write me just the strangest letters. There was like getting a million tweets a day trashing me for a while. And I should have been able to roll with it because I've had bad feedback before, but this was a bit much for me. And I legitimately became a little depressed. And that's when I started just playing to avoid it. I started playing chess all day online, all day long. And then I figured, I'm just going to use my skip the line techniques to get better at chess. And that's how I fell into that trap. So,
Yeah. And-
Wow. I mean, it's crazy because like I grew up in Connecticut for context, and I started doing stand up in New Haven, and I would go and do shows maybe once a month or something in New York, usually like shitty bringer
where?
shows at I would do like
Yeah.
Dangerfields, which is like closed down now and all that. But I always wondered, like, I guess just from a love of the game point of view, this isn't a stand up podcast, so I won't hijack it, but um like owning a comedy club in New York, especially at a time where like because I believe you sold it, but it
Yeah.
was
Yeah. I sold
after
it
COVID,
afterwards.
right? Like you were. So what's it like owning a business, especially in like such like it's comedy clubs are relatively rare businesses, right? There's like a million Chinese food shops, but there's like 100 comedy
Yeah.
clubs in the country. Like it's a rare business. So what's it like owning like one of 100 and like the place to own it while colleagues of yours are shutting their doors, things like
Well,
that? Like what's that
it
like?
was great before COVID because first off, there's only like 4 or 5 good, like let's say tier 1 comedy clubs in New York City, and I considered we were one of them. Maybe not, we weren't like the Comedy Cellar, which is like in a class of its own, but I knew everybody. Like all the comedy club owners. You're not really competing with each other. Like the Comedy Cellar was in the Village, and we were on the Upper West Side, so I knew Norm very well, who ran the Comedy Cellar. I knew all the people at the different comedy clubs, and I would go to their clubs. They would come to my club. I would go on their podcast. They would come on my podcast. I knew all the comedians. I watched, you know, tens of thousands of sets, bad comedy, good comedy, famous comedy, not famous comedy, but you could see this like all the comedians who we know now from that generation, they weren't famous then, but now they're famous, and you could tell who's going to be great and who's not going to be great. And some people that I thought were not going to be great became great. Like Matt Rife, we would pay $25 for him to do a set at, Stand Up New York. And I thought like, okay, he's okay, but he's up there because he's very good looking. And now he's headlining, he probably made like $50 million last year on tour. And then other guys who weren't getting as famous, Tim Dillon is an example, you know, during COVID, he became famous because his podcast was unreal, but he already was unreal. Just people didn't know about him then. And, he was great. So it was very exciting. I loved it. I loved that whole subculture. I just got invited actually to tour, of all places, Hungary with Tony Woods, who was Dave Chappelle's
Wow.
mentor, and he's a very great comedian. And he asked me if I wanted to tour with him in Hungary, but I can't. I have other stuff going on now. So
Exciting. So
yeah,
That's really fun.
during that period where you got trashed and you wrote this viral article and you lost a bunch of friends, what did you take away from all that?
I think I don't really know actually what I took away from it. I mean, I really got kind of down, and I didn't really know, you know, it was just sort of weird because I kind of felt like, why are all these people, even people I know, trashing me? Like people I know are like just feasting on my grave, and uh, and I didn't want to take out of that like, oh, you can't trust anybody. I didn't want to kind of take cynicism out of that, but I had to really. It took me a while to come back. You think to yourself, oh, I'm going to be stoic, and this is an opportunity for me to practice stoicism, but I was trying to argue with 7 million people who hated me. I was like on Twitter all day, like arguing with them. And I should have just ignored it. Now in retrospect, I could say I should have just ignored everybody who was hating on me. Even people who were close. People who were close to me who wrote articles about me, I did make a point to not respond to them at all. Like I didn't want to give them any fuel for the fire they were trying to create because I knew why they were doing it. They just wanted to get as viral as my article. So I made sure I did not throw fire on any, throw gas on any flames. So, but I don't really know what I got out of it. I was, I did know, okay, this is how you go viral is you take an issue that people really care about and
Yeah.
and if you legitimately have a contrarian view. So people were cynical too. People kept accusing me of like, oh, you're just trying to get famous. And I'm like, no, I believe me, this was the opposite of what I wanted to have happen with this
Yeah.
article.
You wanted the unviral button. You press the viral button, but there's no button to unviral something.
Yeah, I
And that
just
one
wanted
doesn't
people to
exist.
kind of come up with solutions, because, whenever I write something, I always make sure there's something by at the end of the article and I've edited it and everything, right before I hit publish, I ask myself, am I afraid to publish this? And the answer has to be yes. There has to be a reason why the answer is yes. Because if you're not afraid to publish something, then you're probably writing something that's already been said and you don't need to write it again. But this was the one article I've ever written like this where I didn't really have a solution. Normally, also, even in 2008, when there was the Great Recession, or even with COVID, when everybody said that everybody's going to die, I would kind of point out that this is misinformation, it's wrong, and there's a reason to be hopeful at the end of this. But with this New York City article, I was afraid because this was the one time I really didn't know the solution. I didn't know what the solution would be. And so that's what made me afraid. And it turned out, because there was no solution like I normally do, that's what really kind of started the virality, because most of my readers knew I usually have an optimistic view at the end, and this time I didn't because I didn't know what the solution was, and so that's what started the viralness.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Fascinating.
but then I was surprised how many people were eager to, even people I knew were just eager to trash me.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because, like, I mean, obviously, in retrospect, like, the whole pandemic, like those whole 2 years, like that was something that's never happened. I mean, in any of our lives, maybe like the Spanish flu was similar or something, but it's like, I think people really wanted, because everything was in
Yeah,
chaos all around them, right? Everything was changing. So they wanted something they could hold on to. And maybe the only thing they could hold on to is like just the idea that, New York's a vibe. It's not going anywhere. We're chilling. And you're like, I hope so. But
yeah,
also, like, there's an actual material change that's not, you can't run that forever. You can't do it every year. And it's like, yeah, sometimes people don't really want to hear
and
bad
also,
news.
I understand the COVID restrictions and so on, but they were sort of they were sort of hypocritical about it. For instance, I owned a comedy club. We all wanted to do comedy, so we did a show in the street, and we were all wearing masks. So everybody's spread out. There's social distancing. We're in the street. There's not that many of us. There was like 6 comedians, maybe 30 people were just standing around watching, and the police came and shut us down. And it was at the same time that in Washington Square Park, 20,000 people had gathered for a protest. And I have nothing against whatever they were protesting, but it was just hypocritical of what was going on. So I felt like these hypocritical policies were damaging the city I loved. And people, and I knew people were leaving. Like everybody I knew was packing up and leaving, or a lot, not everybody, but a lot of people, and businesses that had been around for 100 years were shutting down. And so you can't do that for too long without affecting the soul and spirit of the city. Not to mention the economic base.
100%.
Yeah.
What are you currently most excited about? Learning, exploring, possibilities, opportunities that you see?
Well, for me right now, I'm still trying to get my old, self at chess. So I just came back from a chess tournament, and again, I do experiments. I just sponsored a chess tournament. It was I because I sponsored, I forced them to name it after me. The organizers, it's called the James Altucher International, and so all these grandmasters came, and there was a nice prize fund, but I did just mediocre in the tournament. There was 7 rounds. I did 3.5 out of 7, like dead middle. And same thing with the tournament that just happened. There were 9 rounds. I scored 5 out of 9, just mediocre. And again, I was playing at a high level, but among the other people playing at a high level, I wasn't demonstrating improvement. So, but I study every day, and it's a beautiful game. It's a fascinating game, and I love it. But also now the other thing is because I'm doing this public company, Tau X, that's uh, uh, really diving into not only the public equity markets, but crypto AI, the merger between crypto and AI. I've been doing a deep dive, much deeper dive on that than I've ever have had to before, because now I have, money on the line and shareholders who are, interested in it and so on. So it's been an incredible journey. But and both of them, like particularly the learning something as an adult that you love. I'm writing a book about this whole process, and both things that I'm pursuing now is part of that process, as well as my experience, because it all was born out of this article where I got so much hate. So it starts with that.
Fascinating. I love that.
So everything I always try to get material for, because a book's another thing that you could do.
Yeah. What was the thought behind naming the tournament after yourself, adding your name to it?
Just for the fun of it. So
yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, and just like when people, if people, like, who is this guy, and they Google, now maybe they see this chess tournament come up, like, oh, he's chess guy, because that has some cultural significance too. Like, you see a lot of kids trying to get good at chess because it gets them into a good college if they get good enough, and it probably got me into college. Got me into grad school. It got me my job at HBO. It got me, to raise money tons of times for businesses, because again, there is this cultural idea about what chess is, which I think is a little inaccurate, but hey, there's a reason why every TV show, there's usually at some point a chessboard in the background, because it means something culturally and metaphorically and so on. So so I like the fact that when people Google me, they might see this story. It's related to another experiment I once did. So right before COVID, you ever go in New York City and you're riding in a cab and you see these TV ads in the back of the cab? So it turns out it's really cheap to buy all the cabs in the city. It was like $2,000 for a month. I can make an ad that will run in every single taxi cab in the city. I don't know if it still costs that. So one time I bought for like 2 or 3 months, the ad space in all the cabs in the city. And the key thing was, I made an ad that didn't advertise anything. So it was just me standing there with a t-shirt that said hi. And that was it. And the owner of the advertising company was like, "What is this?" So he calls me and he's like, you can't do this." And I'm like, "Why can't I? I'm paying you." And he's like, "Yeah, but all of our other advertisers advertise something. Like they're going to see this and they're not going to realize that this is an advertising space. Like we won't get new customers." And I'm like, just do it. How about we do it for a few months, and in the 4th month, I will advertise something. So I did this, and like the next month, I was saying hello in Morse code on my T-shirt, and so people thought I was advertising something crypto related, and then people would stop me, and my experiment was, would anybody notice this weird ad? And people would stop me in the street and said, "Oh my God, you're that taxi guy. My kid, we got to take a picture together. My kid's going to love this." And so it worked for a relatively small amount of money.
Okay, John.
That's the key with experiments too, is experiments should be cheap.
You know what's unfortunate, James? I'm now going to have my paycheck deducted by the exact amount you just said, so Leon can advertise the show and all the New York taxis.
John,
thank you.
We're doing a little bit of rebudgeting on the podcast. We're going to have a meeting right after this, and we're also going to brainstorm what could we put into all New York cabs that's going to grow this podcast. Like,
yeah, you'd be surprised.
Come up
It has
with
to be
some
something
ideas.
wild that is going to go viral that people will talk about.
Yeah. For all we know, prices are cheaper now because people are using Uber more and so on. So I don't know. There's fewer cabs, so maybe prices aren't as much.
Here's my first idea. What if let's say we take an article that we find online about New York being dead forever and we just read it word for word? I think that would get people talking.
Oh my God.
And then it's a call to action. Go listen to the Driven podcast where we dive into this with James Altucher.
Could you imagine if you put that in the back of every New York cab, and like it would people would be like, "What? Why are they telling me bad things about New York?" Like in a New York cab.
Or a second idea, we just clip this segment and it's a meta ad where it's just like, "Yeah, you can just buy this. Wow, that's great. What should we put on there? I don't know."
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
It's just this playing. So if you're
really
in a
fun.
New York cab right now
That'd
and
be
you want to check out the full episode, there's going to be a QR code right here. Pull out your phone, scan it, and it'll take you right to the episode.
There you go.
Wow.
That'd be a great first day, right? You get in the cab with your girl and she like, oh my God, you're in the cab, you're in the ad. And then you get out, you go to a Starbucks or a bodega. Can I have the discount? And you're just like, this guy's crazy. This guy has all kinds of
Oh my God.
surprises. Take her on the subway, you start doing stand up.
Oh
Everyone
my God, if
recognizes
you just did all the experiments that we talked about in this podcast, that'd be pretty impressive actually, because it took, that was over a span of years. But
Someone is going to take the idea. We actually got to do it, John. Someone's going to listen to this, and they're going to use it for. They're going to squander this idea with some crypto thing or something else.
No, do it fun. Do it. You got to do it where it's like a non-ad somehow, where it's like something meta or crazy.
Yes. Yeah.
That'd be very fun.
I love this. Cool. It was great having you on. I'm very inspired.
Thank you guys for having me on. A lot of fun.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I'm getting really inspired hearing your stories and the things that you've tried to just go and do stuff. You can just go and do stuff, and sometimes it'll lead somewhere, and you end up having the most fun while achieving really big goals, which is what we're all about.
And the thing is, usually it won't go anywhere, but it's an experiment. Most experiments don't work, but some do, and you learn something from every single experiment.
Yeah, and you get...
And also, most of what you do with your time doesn't
go
anywhere
or just
anyway.
doom scrolling or, playing 50 games of like 1 minute chess in the morning. Like that's, useless.
Yeah. And at the very least, you have a great story or you make connections that can last a lifetime and may lead somewhere. So great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on. And
thank you.
Yeah, this was super fun.
I really appreciate it, you guys. Thank you.
Man, it's people like him who really inspire me to just go and try stuff, because he tries 100 weird things. Oh, let me start a chess tournament and name it after myself. Let me buy a comedy club. Let me start this weird business. Let me write an article and start a Kickstarter on buying Greenland. And it always leads somewhere. You either learn something or you have a cool story, or you get in touch with people who hear about it and they'll reach out to you. Like, it reminds me.
I want to try the cab thing.
Yeah, let's actually brainstorm something and do something.
We're gonna have to do his 10 idea thing. Maybe I'll come up with 10 ideas. You come up with 10 ideas. We see what the best ones are.
Yeah.
But honestly, maybe we just run what you just said in the interview with the QR code, and it goes to the YouTube page.
Yeah, that could be it. It reminds me of other things that I've done in the past where, like when I put up a billboard to find a girlfriend, one of the first YouTube videos. It's just the stuff that happens when things like that go viral, and it went super viral on Facebook. It's so exciting, and you never know who's going to see it. And there could be someone who sees it who's, someone who has a ton of funds, and they just reach out to you because they want to talk to you and they want to learn from you, or they want to know what happened, and then the business opportunity pops up. Or like in his case, Jerry Seinfeld read his article, trashed it, but at least he heard about him, right? And so you never know where that leads.
I'm really intrigued by how, you really can just do things, but there's also a strategic element to it. Like, you can't, there's a billion possibilities, but a bunch of them are absolutely closed doors. And that's part of what he was saying is, like, you come up with 10 ideas every day for 10 days, you get 100 ideas. Most of them suck. You try the 5 that don't suck, you think. And then out of those 5, maybe only one of them even does anything. So it's like, out of all the possible things that could be, most of them won't happen. But it's just enough more that could happen than what you think that it's worth doing the search. It's like maybe 1% more is possible than you think. But in that 1%, like, no one else is even trying to get it. There's no competition.
Yeah. Yeah. And at the very least, you learn something cool. You get great connections. So one of our listeners, one of our most loyal listeners, shared this with us. And I think it's so spot on. Let me know if you can see this.
Yep.
So David Sinclair, one of the top longevity biohacker guys, says, broke a rule by eating a snack bar before bed. It completely messed up my glucose and I woke up feeling ill. Won't do that again. And a picture of his glucose monitor. At 3 a.m. it went haywire and it woke him up. This guy on Twitter replies, Ozzy Osbourne had 2 bottles of vodka and then sang for 3 hours every other night for 3 decades.
Yeah.
And
They don't make them like that no more.
Yeah. Well, looking up Ozzy Osbourne, interesting fact, he only recently, at the age of 76, did his final show just a few days ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that. He had a Youngblood perform. That was fun.
Interesting.
Ozzy Osbourne kind of looks like Brian Johnson.
Brian Johnson was adopted. You know that? He doesn't know his father.
Whoa. Ozzy Osbourne probably has 5,000 kids who he doesn't know.
Yes. Wouldn't that be a plot twist? Brian Johnson. Wait, 23andMe. Somebody has exactly my DNA. Ozzy Osbourne? Brian Johnson says,
That'd be amazing.
Wow.
And then Brian can be Ozzy's blood boy, and Ozzy will live forever without doing the protocol at all.
Oh, he skipped the line.
And that would fulfill a whole thing too, because he has like songs about drinking blood anyway, so it'd be very on brand. But
oh yes, wow. We need to get in touch with Ozzy Osbourne ASAP.
we got to get Ozzy and Brian on the show and do a Jerry Springer style, like "You Are Not the Father" segment.
Yes. And
with Brian's very nice Mormon mom. Oh no, he's adopted, so no, that wouldn't be the plot
but
line.
in his case, it would be "You Are the Father" and Ozzy Osbourne. Do you think Ozzy would celebrate? Yeah, he'd probably be like, "Yeah, I could live another 30
I don't
years."
think Ozzy knows where the fuck he is, to be honest.
What do you mean?
I don't think he knows he's alive. I think he drank his brain to death. According to that tweet, he was drinking 3 bottles of vodka every day or something.
Oh God, that's so funny. But I mean, there's something to it, right? Like some people who over optimize, they don't actually like. I don't want to name any names, but there's a very well-known biohacker. He's one of the first people that comes to mind in the biohacker circle, who actually measured his biological age, and it was terrible. Even though he...
Oh, so not Brian Johnson.
Not Brian Johnson. And
Okay.
he did everything to the T and plus extra. Like his sleep routine is literally putting on eye mask plus binaural beats plus hooking himself up to some other like monitor thing so that it down regulates his nervous system. And then he took 7 supplements beforehand and he lied on a specific mat. It's like that kind of thing. And yeah, his biological age, not that great. And then meanwhile, you have people like Warren Buffett, who, you know, how old is he? 200 years old now?
Yeah, and he just drinks like Diet Coke and eats McDonald's.
Yeah. And man, it's kind of what David Perel said, is never optimize 100%. If you go too far, it actually has not just diminishing returns, but so many downsides. Anti-returns.
Costs.
Yeah.
I feel like it's the same way because like obviously, you know, perfect world, like maybe like from purely a health point of view, like you'd never eat the cookie. But sometimes, like there were times like if I was like dieting or whatever, I'd sit there and be like, I'm not going to eat the cookie. I'm not going to eat the cookie. And like my cortisol must be going through the roof. And I'm like shit talking myself. It's like, okay, is that worth the 200 calories or whatever it is? Like probably
you
not.
aged 2 years just in those 5 minutes of fighting the cookie urge.
Yeah, it killed me.
Just like you, just imagining you just like you're talking to your fiance, and then you go in another room, you're resisting the cookie urge for 5 minutes, you come back, and she looks at your hairline, she's like, "Did you just age 2 years? What happened to your hairline is receding like crazy?" You know.
That, I mean, look, that is something like that gets pointed out to me sometimes, and I have chilled out about it. Like some things, like when it comes to habits, like some things are easy for me to not do, and I didn't really like them that much in the first place. Like I never really liked alcohol. Like I guess I'm the loser in that tweet. Like if I drink, I like can't sleep, so I'm not Ozzy. But I just never really liked it that much, so it was easy for me to not do it. But I'm a big snacky, fatty boom batty. That is me. I love snacking. And so like other times I'll like judge myself. I'm like, oh, I need to be perfect on this routine. And everyone's like, bro, you are fine. Like you gotta chill out, dude. Like you're working out every day. 90% of what you eat's good. Yeah. Like you're doing more harm to yourself stressing out.
I heard that too, that what is way more important is working out. If you had the choice between I eat a perfectly clean diet, but I don't work out, I don't lift weights. Let's say I get a few steps in, like just let's take the average. Like you get 4,000 steps in a day. Is that average? 3,000 maybe? I don't know.
Something like that.
option B, you eat the average American diet. You don't eat clean at all, but you lift weights 4 times a week, and you are super active. Most people would say that, oh, eating healthy is probably better, but I think I've heard this somewhere, and also just from my own experience and looking at how people are living, it's way better to work out because you get away with so much more. The processes that it starts in your body, you can get away with so much. So actually, I made a video with Ari Meisel early in my YouTube career where he was known as this guy who was incredible at building systems and being highly efficient and effective with his work, where he would work an hour a day and he would grow his business. And the reason why is because he had Crohn's disease, where he could only physically work very little because he was just in pain, and he was just, IBS forces you to go in the bathroom like every hour or so. And so he was bedridden and he could only work very little. So he had to figure out how to become highly effective. And long story short, the way that he started dealing with his Crohn's disease and his IBS issues is that he became a marathon runner. A little bit counterproductive. You're bedridden,
Really?
and let me just, and what he said was, my goal, like he did a bunch of research and dove really deeply into it. And he said, I need to turn my body into a furnace.
Interesting.
And that was one of the best things he did for his health is work out like crazy. And like, I think Joe Rogan also has a autoimmune disease, right? But you wouldn't be able to tell. I think he has Hashimoto's.
Oh,
But
interesting.
you wouldn't be able to tell because he's so high energy and has good output, but he works out like crazy.
See that I know some people in real life with Hashimoto's who don't work out, and I can totally tell. So
It's like a chicken or the egg thing, it seems like, where people think, I can't work out because I'm low energy and I feel lethargic. But working out gives you energy. It actually increases your energy levels. And so if you're lethargic and you're like, I can't work out because of it, it's like, no, it's the other way around. You want to work out. You want to force yourself to work out so that you do have more energy.
Well, so like obviously you need to eat to live eventually. So I'm not like one of these like obviously, but from a point of view of like longevity, this is bro science mode to the extreme. But like what like Brian Johnson always talks about, like how eating itself, like the act of eating and metabolizing food, creates aging damage. So even if you're eating the most healthy thing possible, at the baseline, eating is creating entropy in your body, even if it's just a little bit. So super cleaning up your diet, the most you can do is remove negatives, but exercising adds the positives. So it's like you probably, like if you're eating the pure standard American diet, it's like it's almost like finances. Like you probably shouldn't be actively getting into tons of debt. But if you're not in a ton of debt, saving money is probably
Or
more
learning how to make more money.
important, right? Yeah, I'm learning how to make
Yeah.
more money. Yeah, that
Yeah,
would be
yeah.
it.
I don't want to speak this over myself, but I'll do it just for the sake of the podcast, and I'll sacrifice myself here. I am terrible at budgeting. I don't ever budget. I don't ever I rarely try to cut expenses, and can get much better at it, but I know how to make money. And so it's been a crutch of mine, a crutch, I should say. It's been a crutch of mine, but yeah, like if you learn how to make money, then you don't have to budget that much. And to bring this back to this, if you work out consistently and you really challenge your body and you lift weights and you run, all those things, you can get away with a lot more bad food. And yeah, most people, they can't stay away from the snacky snacks. I can. Actually, it's actually very easy for me. But I have other vices. There's other things that are very difficult for me. So
The common advice is like, what do they say? Like you can't outrun a bad diet. But then you look at how much the average American moves, and I'm like, well, yeah, they can't. They're not trying. Like, they don't have a walking pad at their work desk. I can absolutely outwalk a bad diet. I'm walking like 30,000 steps a day.
Yeah.
Like my minimum burn is like 3,800 calories. It's crazy.
really, how many steps do you walk a day? 30,000?
On a good day, it'll be 30,000. Usually it's like
Yeah.
20,
Because in our
25.
meetings, you're always on the treadmill. And last time I was like,
Yeah.
why am I not on a treadmill? What? He's out treadmilling me here?
I'm the change that I want to see in the world.
Yes, you are. You are the change that you want to see in our meetings.
I'm managing up.
Great. Yes, you're forcing me to level up. Wow. But think about this: the bad thing about the American diet is the high levels of sodium. But it's one of those things that people misunderstand. You actually need sodium if you're active. You know? So, but if you're not working out and you're not sweating and you're not moving, don't drink Element. Don't have electrolytes that have a ton of sodium, because then it's actually bad. So, it's
Yeah, that's like the people who like don't work out or sleep or do anything right, and then they're like, I need Celsius to function. I'm like, you are burning yourself alive on the inside right now, dude. Like, why don't you try anything else first?
what is Celsius?
It's like
Sodium?
like a Red Bull,
Oh, okay.
like like big energy drink. Yeah, I mean, I think there's electrolytes in it too.
Yeah.
But
Interesting. You mentioned the shiny door syndrome that I wrote down here in the notes.
yeah,
This is something I recently thought about, where, man, whenever I start a new thing, it's always a humbling experience. I was just mentioning that with James Altucher on the show. Like where I think, okay, it'll be easy to start this podcast and just, I know YouTube, I know how to make things go viral. It's just, it's just that, but easy, but simpler. It'll be a bit more difficult. And as the challenges go on, I'm like, oh, it actually requires a lot more commitment. This needs to be way better. This needs to be way better. And at every step, I thought there was a shiny door. There was a shiny door that said, oh, if we just start having guests on, it'll be easy. It'll be done. And then we started having guests on, and not much was moving. And then I was like, maybe we just need to make the intros better, like just improve that. And at every stage, I looked for a quick thing that'll fix it. And I think the same thing happens with diet, or with, let's say somebody has acne and they're like, oh, I just, there's this new product and I can go and just try that product and that'll fix it, because it's like this antibacterial spray. You just put it on and, it should fix it, because acne is just bacteria festering, whatever, right? So, but we always avoid the really difficult base thing. You know what? You just got to fix your diet. If you want to fix your acne, you need to stop eating crap. And I just noticed that it's like a human default setting that we want to save energy as much as we can and just do the lowest energy things first. And it's actually one of these traps that the more shiny doors there are, the longer it'll take you to skip the line to the thing that actually is going to move the needle. For example, James Altucher was saying how he went straight to the most difficult thing, which is, let me go to a Subway and practice my stand-up comedy on strangers that can't leave. It's kind of a torturous thing. They're locked in here. They have to listen to my thing. But that's what skipping the line is all about, right? It's like, how can I do the scariest thing immediately? And that's like the biggest skip the line thing, right? And so for me and for us, it was like, okay, we just need to make the show way better. And what am I currently avoiding? And because I think there's an easier solution first, right? Like sometimes I see people that are out of shape and they're trying everything else first before they can go to the thing and be like, I think I just need to go to the gym, lift weights, and eat less. But as long as there's more shiny doors coming up, they never get there. They never get to that conclusion, because there's always the new marketing thing of, here's this new product, here's Ozempic, here's that, And so then I ask myself, what am I currently doing that is a shiny door that eventually I'm going to come around and be like, you know what, that's actually not the thing. I'm just looking for an easy thing. I just got to do this. And now we're having podcast growth because we're just putting way more time into making the episodes really good. And it's the work that I've been avoiding. And I'm like, man, had I done this 6 months ago, we would be a lot further ahead. And so I asked myself, what in 6 months am I going to look back on? I'm like, yeah, I avoided this.
I wonder what it might be, because I mean, basically what we've kind of come down to, like, there were a whole bunch of different things that we could be doing, but when you have limited man hours, right, you got to prioritize. And this is one thing I wanted to talk to James Altucher about, but didn't get around to it. There's like the 80-20 rule, right? 20% of your customers give you 80% of your money, but also a different 20% will give you 80% of the customer service complaints, whatever. And that applies to everything in life, right? But he's like, just go further than that. Like do it 2 more times. Like what's the 80-20 of the 80-20, and then one more time. So it works out to where it's like 80-20, and then it's like 64-4, and then it's like 51. So it's like 50% of your output and positive will come from 1% of the possible activities. And so like when we were thinking about that, we're like, well, yeah, like what if just we had good ideas for the show and good guests? Like, okay, easy.
Yeah.
And I think that'll work. But also there's an element of, I've been watching this show called The Bear. My fiance got me into it. It's a good show, but it's about chefs at a restaurant. And it's like there is a recipe component to it, like with the example of fitness, where it's like, oh, I just need to lift weights, or I just need to lower my calories that I eat, or whatever. And it's like you kind like those are the ingredients, but you also kind of got to put them all together in the right amount over the right amount of time. You know, like you can't just like, okay, we got a bunch of good thumbnails, but they don't relate to the video. We have a bunch of good guests, but we don't have good ideas for them. We have a bunch of good ideas, but we can't talk like we're bad at talking.
Yeah.
So it's like a recipe. You got to put it all together.
You have to check a bunch of boxes for something to work. Yeah, 100%. It's like you can do everything right to build muscle, but if you are 200 calories too little, you build zero muscle.
Yeah.
Like and that's half a muffin. Half a muffin. If you ate half a muffin for 30 days, by the end of that month, you would have gained a pound of muscle. Or if you didn't, no muscle. Like
on that exact thing, when we interviewed Mike Israetel, you brought up a very good point.
I do that all the time.
Let's say you need to do 10 out of 10 to, like, if your goal is to grow muscle or gain strength, hit a new PR, whatever, you need to do 10 out of 10, like full focus, specialization, do all the extra on it. And then if you just want to maintain what you have, it's like a 3 out of 10. And most people are doing 5 to 6 out of 10. They're doing more than they need to maintain, but not enough to grow. So they're just kind of wasting time. And I realized, like, am I doing that in my workouts? And I'm like, oh, I'm totally doing that with my workouts. Because my thing would be like, I'm going to do a little bit of like, I'm going to do pull-ups and dips and hamstring curls and squats like every day, but only like 1 or 2 sets. And that was definitely enough to maintain, but it was way more than I needed to maintain. So I'm like, okay, so I changed the routine and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do more and more. I had delayed onset muscle soreness like a bitch for the first time in years after just one workout. I'm like, that's enough. And I definitely do not need to do that every day, actually, because I'll die. And it's like when you get it right, you know, when you put the ingredients together in a way that's going to hit the goal, it's like, you know, like that workout was like my version of having a viral video for the first time in years. I'm like, oh yeah, that's what working out feels like when you're trying. I'm like, yes. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was going to make a video about that on the old channel. Don't know if I'll still make it. Maybe I will, but, you know, I can talk about it here. This idea that it takes way more effort to grow something. And sometimes people are like, they're right there. They just need to do a little bit more to have a breakthrough, whether it's in their business, whether it's in finding a life partner, whether it's in their health or their career. You just need to put in a little bit more effort to break through. And they're like they need to be at 9 out of 10 effort minimum to make meaningful progress. But like you said, they're at 8. But to maintain, the good news is that once you have built a certain level, you've built a certain podcast, you've built a relationship, and you're in a relationship, you found your life partner, it actually takes very little to maintain it. I know people say relationships are a lot of work, but to maintain it on a consistent basis, there's only small things you need to do every day to keep a beautiful relationship going, right? And I think it's really about getting picky about what am I currently trying to grow and how can I just maintain the other areas? So I've been wanting to break through my muscle plateau for a while now, right? Where I'm not really benching more. I've hit a ceiling, and I've hit a ceiling in my squat and all the, right? And also just in general in my lean muscle mass. Like I can get up to 185 pounds at like 12% body fat. That's probably my ceiling, but it'd be cool to get that up to 195 pounds of weight and at 12% body fat or something like that, right? Because I'm very low body fat. I've had, I'm very blessed genetically with that, where I don't gain fat, but it's going to take so much of my effort that it's going to take away from building the business. Like the amount of stuff that I have to eat, and so I have to consciously choose, I can't do that right now, Right now, I'm putting 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 effort into growing my business and only 2 out of 10 effort into the fitness. And that is enough to maintain. And that's what Dr. Mike Israel said, right? It takes way less than you think. And they surprise themselves even with the research that they're seeing and the results that they're seeing with their clients. It actually continues to wow us how little it takes to maintain. Like it takes 2 weeks for you to start losing muscle. And with 2 hours of workout per week, you can pretty much maintain really well. And it's much easier to gain it back. And I think it's the same in other areas too, right? Just a little bit of effort in your relationship, even if you're focused on your business, maintains it. But if you have 0 out of 10 effort or 1 out of 10 effort, it's not enough to maintain your relationship. And then your relationship actually goes down, wife gets unhappy or, there's the passion gets lost, whatever it is, right? And I think for the listener right now, there's something that you got to choose to stop doing. What is that thing? Is it in your fitness? Is it in your relationship, in your business? Is there somewhere where you're just wasting effort and time where it's not enough to grow and it's way too much to maintain? And if you took those units away from one area and put it into the number one area that you want to grow, would you make massive progress? Yeah. And I guess this is a good time to give the call to action to share it with a friend. Who's a friend of yours? An ambitious weirdo friend that you have that is currently going through the exact same thing, where they're trying to do too many things at once. They have to say no to one thing, and they would benefit from this. So why don't you send it to them? And then you can take credit later on when their business grows up to $1 trillion and you get 1%. That's how it happens usually. Tons of people email us that they made $1 billion because they got 1% in someone's $1 trillion business idea because they shared the podcast. So go and do that right now. Any thoughts on that whole thing?
I think you definitely have something that you need to quit. And I don't know. I know I get people who can be really type A, they can get addicted to quitting or not quitting, addicted to doing things, and they might need to quit because they like that sleep score thing you showed me with the biohacker. It's we can get addicted to oh, my sleep score was a 95 or a 100 for 10 weeks in a row. And it's okay, for certain things that's great, but for other things I don't know, there was a period early this year where I was crushing it on the number go up, hitting the goals, being a good boy, you did it, right, of making money, but I was overworking myself miserably. I had 3 major client obligations that I was doing. It was just taking me 70 hours a week. And I think there's definitely a time to work 70 hours a week, when it's your thing, when it's a startup, when it's something you really believe in, or it's your big moonshot or your passion project. But when when it's just a job that you might not want to do, or it's client work, it's okay, what's the ROI here? Because it's you're making a lot of money, but it's more than you need. So what's the actual goal? And I think it's the same way for all kinds of things. With fitness, if your goal is I want to, lose weight, and then it's okay, well, that's the goal that you have to measure by. And if, oh, I did this many reps, or I logged all my food, you're doing all the 50 little habits. It's you might not need to do all those little habits. You might need to just find the 1 or 2 that are essential and just double down till it works.
Yeah, 100%. Also, I just started a new fiction book that I started reading in the evenings, and I kid you not, I can't wait to shut all my screens off and start reading. And it's probably the biggest thing that I've done for my sleep recently is just getting a fiction book that you look forward to reading so much that you can't wait to turn the screens off and get to bed. I'm going to bed earlier now because I'm I want to read. And
that's awesome.
And so my buddy Hunter, he told me about it because he was I just started reading this book and I couldn't put it down. For 6 hours I was reading. I can't read that long in the evenings because I just get tired and then I have the best sleep ever. The book series is called The Red Rising. And it's a book. Okay. It's a book series of 6 books. And he said he doesn't read much. He doesn't read fiction books, but he just, and first chapter I read, I was all right, I'm in. And so I'll let you know how that goes. Red Rising. inspiring.
I did the same thing, but it wasn't with a book. It was with
TikTok.
a video game. And so for the first time, I was just blaring blue light into my eyes until 12:30 a.m. So
Yeah.
opposite effect on my sleep, but I also enjoyed it. So,
It's one of the things that you put down in the notes too, right? Like find a habit that sucks and make it good. And so
Yeah.
how can I make doom scrolling good? Well, I just doom scroll on my Kindle. And I just get a really
Yes.
good book. And here's the thing, I was reading The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy before this. And yeah, it's great. It's funny, it's good, but it's like 7 out of 10 good. But the one that I just started reading, I can already tell it's a 9 out of 10, if not a 10 out of 10. Like it's gonna be so good that I want to turn my screens off. I want to start reading. And so, yeah, I turned a bad habit into a good one. I'm doom scrolling.
That's
I'm
amazing.
Doom scrolling my Kindle.
That's amazing. Good for you. Yeah. And when you finish the book series, you're never going to sleep well ever again.
Oh no, I just need to find the next thing. I may do
Jason.
the 50 Shades of Grey version that James Altucher wrote with the synonyms. And it's just like, I want to read that book. Imagine how unhinged it could get.
That's such a funny idea because like I applaud the effort, but that was the one thing he said where he's like, what if I took the best-selling book of all time and it's the same except for every single word is different? And I'm like, isn't that the art of writing is picking the exact right words? So you changed all of them to exactly not the right
It's
words.
like a completely different book. it's like a I don't know. It becomes like a tutorial on how to do knitting. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah. That's like there's this concept called Russell conjugating, which we could probably get into more in another episode, but it's basically like you can reframe anything to make it a different narrative without changing the facts. So it would be like, he's sweaty, but she's glowing and I'm perspiring. Right? So for me it's neutral. I'm just perspiring. That's like a bodily function. He's sweating, so he's trying hard. And she glows. She looks beautiful because she's, whatever. And it's like, you could probably do that with a whole book where you could change, like, if 50 Shades of, I haven't read it, but I'm assuming it paints the characters in it as like they're the good guys or whatever. And you could probably just change all the words and have it be the same exact plot. And now they're the bad guys.
Oh, interesting. Oh, you could do that with the rap songs. His palms are glowing, knees weak. Okay, I dropped the Eminem lyrics in the last episode as well. I need to stop doing that. Let's see if we have any questions from the community. There's one question that came in anonymously. How much money does the podcast make?
Yeah, Leon, how much money does the podcast make? That's a good question. I didn't submit that.
Oh God, how much money does the podcast make?
It doesn't.
Yes. Okay, let me look it up right
Next
now.
question.
The Driven Podcast channel right now.
We just got monetized a few weeks ago, right?
No, we've been monetized for months.
Oh.
So I'll show you what it's on a monthly basis. Okay, so in June, the podcast made about $380 in ad revenue.
Wow.
In May, 726, and it's mostly all from one interview that I did with Chase Hughes. That's about 100,000 views or so. Then I still make a little bit of money from the old channel, like $500 in ad revenue a month. The Clips channel has one of the other Chase Hughes interviews on there, which is printing cash. It's like $5K a month that it brings in because it's a long form interview. The RPM is really high. But the way I'm sustaining the podcast right now is honestly consulting. I have a client that I'm helping right now build a new channel. He has a podcast interview channel where he interviews like these tech founders, and he's brand new, and yeah, he's paying good money to basically shortcut his learning. And whenever somebody wants to hire me for consulting stuff, I'm usually like, no, I want to focus on my podcast. But that makes it really good that you can you can get really picky with the people that you work with. And so that's kind of how we're sustaining ourselves right now. And it's really good. It's really good. Like if nothing worked out and the podcast never got monetized, I can always make enough money to have a small team because I can do consulting on the side with people that are really easy to work with, that I can help a ton. And that's basically how we're doing it right now.
Well, I think it's good that you're doing the consulting and all that, and I also have YouTube, client and that kind of stuff outside of this. But like when you teach or when you consult or when you help someone else do it, sometimes it makes those lessons like really obvious where you're like, okay, here's the obvious advice for your situation. Wait, oh yeah, I should do that too.
Big time. I'm like, actually, we haven't been. We could do a way better job at this. What he's doing right now. And so
when you get like a new consultant, like I'd imagine like everyone has different problems, so maybe you start at a different place with everyone, but like is there kind of a step 1, 2, 3 kind of process you bring people through?
No, it's really just what do you want to achieve? What's your goal? And then it depends on everyone. But yeah, I'm a terrible consultant. Don't hire me. So yeah, that's the beauty. I can say stuff like that and it doesn't, I don't care. I don't have to look like an expert, but it really depends on client to client. And most people, I've learned you shouldn't work with most people because they're either not going to do what you say, and then they don't like the results, and then it's your fault. And it's like, well, you didn't do any of the things that I said. That's really the main thing.
One of the big things that I'm learning, like, because I've worked at agencies in the past, and like, man, like, it's really important to be picky with who you work for, because like, and it's also important to know where the people you're helping
don't
are
quit,
at.
Please.
Oh no, I'm not quitting. Don't worry. No, I quit the agency to do this. No way.
You're like spitting some truth. You're like, you really got to be really picky about who you work with. Actually,
and that's why, Leon,
I should be.
I'm quitting.
Yes. Slowly, you're having the realization.
Picky.
Actually, I should be more. Anyways,
no, because it was like for example, so just behind the scenes on this show, like we were doing a clips channel, like you said, right? And then we realized like, okay, that's not necessarily the wrong thing to do or a bad thing to do, but given our limited resources and given where the show's at right now and what's bottlenecking it, is it the best thing to do? It's like at this time, no, it's not. Maybe in 6 months, that'll be the exact thing that we need to do. And maybe at that point in time, we'll wish we'd been doing it all along. But right now, we just don't have the resources to do that at the level that it demands,
requires
right?
a lot of volume for people to, like, as context. Like people think, oh no, like one clip. I think it requires a lot of volume. You want to really pump it out.
Tons. And like, so when you, like, I would work in content agencies and it would be like, okay, the client needs like 40 clips this month. Like it's all about and I'm like, okay, like we can make that. I can clip up your show, but your show sucks and it's not good. So this is like, you're wasting your money. And I'd be the guy who would get in trouble at the agency because I'd be like, we shouldn't do what we sold them. That's a bad idea. We're just stealing their money, basically. Like it's not going to work. But then you actually try to tell clients like, hey, you got to up the base level quality before any kind of marketing is going to help you. And then they're like, yeah, we don't want to hear that. And I'm like, well, you have 12 subscribers. I don't know what you want.
Yeah, it's difficult. Difficult to work with clients and have multiple bosses. Cool. I think that's it. We'll end the episode here.
Cool.
Thanks for listening. See you in the next one.
Bye-bye.
Peace.